Press Start Podcast.
And welcome back to the Press Start Podcast. This is episode number 96, and I'm your host, Vic, aka Mr. Never Chillin', and I'm joined by Roger, aka Lunatic Oblivion.
Hey guys, production value
Yeah.
is through the roof in this
Yeah,
show.
it's the best ever.
Through the roof.
Welcome back, man. It's been a great week, and it's just us, me and you this week. No Scott, no Inhuman, even though he's going to be here in chat whenever he can. But man, we got a lot to dive into. Honestly, we had a big week here, so we're just going to talk about what we've been playing. Of course, you have the longest list per usual. Yakuza 5 is on hold, and why is this?
Well, because Final Fantasy 16 is out.
Oh,
So,
okay.
you can't play them both at the same time, especially if you're playing a big story game like Final Fantasy 16. It's going to take all your attention if you're looking to play a story game. I'm not going to want to go play Yakuza instead of that right now, especially with the fact that when you put a game on pause, like, you don't want to unpause it just or remove the CD and be like, oh, oops, there goes my
Oops.
pause.
Okay,
Oops.
yeah,
So
that
what
makes
about you,
sense.
Vic? I see you've been playing X Defiant here. This is a game I'm curious about.
Yeah,
What do you
man.
think?
So the open session was there from like the 21st to the 23rd or something like that. It was kind of like
Hmm.
what they did with like Diablo, where it was just like a server slam, and it was fun, man. I really think this is going to be huge for the arcade shooter because we finally have some competition. Like we say it all the time, like, man, I wish there's another game to play other than Call of Duty because I want to play the Call of Duty style game, but I'm just getting tired of playing Call of Duty.
Yep.
And it's great, and there's just so much content to choose from, but I'm ready for the full release of this game because I didn't like having everything unlocked, no grind. Like there was just you were just playing it, you're just doing whatever the hell you wanted to.
Played whatever you wanted to do.
Right, and I was just like, nah, I like grinding for guns, unlocking the attachments, getting the camouflages and stuff like that, which is going to be there at launch. But overall, like the game just feels great, and I love the
Hmm.
different abilities and the different like factions, and the fact that this is like a open sandbox game for Ubisoft. Like they can pull from any of their IPs and put them into this game.
Yeah.
So this
No,
game
I
has a
get that.
lot to look forward to with this one.
Does it? And it plays like Call of Duty and not like a another shooter like say Overwatch or Valorant or any of these
Nope.
CS:GO style clones.
Nope.
It plays like
The
Call
gun
of
the gun
Duty.
the gunplay is just like Call of Duty. Like
Hmm.
there's no like team tactical. It's not like Rainbow Six where like your team matters of who you
Hmm.
pick. Like most of the time everyone has been running with leotards or whatever, libertards, the people from Far Cry 6, because they have like the insta heal, like the stim from like Call of Duty, and because like
Hmm.
Call of Duty, they everyone runs that in multiplayer. Everyone wants to run with that in X Defiant. So it's just like maybe they gotta have maybe tweak those and maybe make the other ones seem like they're very useful. You're missing out on it. I think it'll just be a balancing act whenever they can
Hmm.
figure that stuff out. But yeah, it's really awesome. Welcome, Panda Soul. Yeah, man, I'm definitely excited. Rogue Company vibes, yeah, a little bit for sure. I just felt like Rogue Company was just too childish. It was just too like a Fortnite clone to me almost. That's just my personal opinion. But yeah, X Defiant, great game. Looking forward to the full release because it's gonna offer more content than Call of Duty does. But
Yeah. No,
Roger.
I go
Oh
ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, I'm actually kind of excited to try it myself when it becomes a full launch. The only problem that worries me is it is a Ubisoft game. Like the last shooter that they did, their last, team-based shooter, didn't start off well, but it did have a redemption arc, and I'm hoping they learn the lessons from that to be able to carry into this game on launch because we don't want to buy into a game that kind of fizzles out.
Well, you don't gotta buy into this game. It's free to play.
Hey,
Free to
there
play
you go.
game, and the fact that they're so involved with the community, like, and they listen, they're like, okay, cool, we appreciate the feedback. We did X, Y, and Z to counter this or fix this or do that. And I'm like, this is way more communication than Call of Duty ever thinks about. Call of Duty, all the community's like, this shit sucks. This shit sucks. You need to fix this. And the Call of Duty's like, oh, we have this new map with quotations around it or whatever. Here's a new skin
New.
that we couldn't bring from the first Modern Warfare 2019 or the Warzone 1, but now we're just gonna reskin it and call it a new skin. And it's just like you don't care about your community. Yeah, I mean the division was a hit or miss too. I mean it had its ups and downs, but I think there's a lot to come from this. X Defiant is also being made by ex Call of Duty devs too, so like they already have that foundation, that formula is already going to be there, and you see it. You see Call of
Hmm.
Duty through and through. They went back to the 3 lane maps. Like that's what made Call of Duty great was the map
That's
design,
what
the three
makes
line maps.
most map design, like most map design works really well with 3 lanes. Look at Valorant. Valorant does that on most of their maps. There are 3 lanes. It's you've got, A, B, or mid, and if
Hmm.
you have a B site as well as a C site, you're still getting those 3 lanes, and it allows for a lot more gameplay, I think, than the 2 lanes, or even hell, just because with 2 lanes you end up in a circle pattern. With three
Hmm.
lanes, you kind of it just takes one guy to go the wrong way with the
Or
rest
like
of the
I
pattern of
hate
play.
like the most recent past Call of Duties. Like they've been doing like a lot of like no lanes. Like it's just a big ass map that you can just run wherever you want to run and climb on top of whatever you want to climb
So
on
you get
top.
shot by Steve, who's back here, then you
Yeah,
shoot Joe over there, and then you're like, "There's a guy there."
it's so like it's unplayable at that point because you have to look in too many places, and the TTK
Mhm.
is like that. So it's just like you don't have no time to react to any of this stuff. Where if it's like
No,
on
I
the
agree.
ground in the lanes, like now it's going to come down who's going to shoot better.
It feels like shoot house. Everything's shoot house with Call of Duty lately. It's like, okay, if I'm not watching here, I'm getting shot by here while also having some dude here and here. And
It's
then
just
if
too
I
much.
accidentally tag a dude, this guy's gonna instantly kill him before I take it. Or, it just gets a little silly sometimes, in my opinion.
Yeah. So X Defiant, there's a lot of anticipation here, and I think it'll live up to the hype. I think this is what we need in the shooter genre, for sure.
Hmm.
But everyone has been craving this, or not craving this, raving about this game. Here is Final Fantasy 16. You've been spending most of your hours, I think, playing this game lately. How's it? How is it?
No, I only
No.
picked it up on Friday and I played it Friday night and a bunch yesterday, and I'm honestly really happy with how this game turned out. So they, in lieu of like open world, it is returning to that sort of linear path game
Hmm.
where, yeah, there's a little bit of exploration in your linear path, but it is a line. It's not like, oh, when you get a superpower, you come back here later and there's a spot right there you can open, or there's a spot here to open. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
we're going to give you missions and we're going to give you free roam areas. There are towns where you can explore, but when you do certain missions, it is a line. Not like, I'm not just saying just a straight line, but
Right.
there is point A where you start and point B where you end, and it's not like you go off the beaten path to find point C, D, E, and F for bonus features. No, it feels good because it's battle after battle after battle, and sometimes there's a little bit of open world to move around in, but it's not like you're running around looking for collectibles or you're trying to find secrets. It's all about the story. And you see that when you start the game, you jump into a literal action scene where you're fighting and it's bare minimum controls, then you jump back into the story, like you jump into the actual story, then you jump here and here, and you're jumping around a little bit in the beginning, and it's trying to get you accustomed to what's going on, only to tell you it's the prologue. Once you finish the prologue, then you start the real gameplay, and it really just slowly steps out what you can do, and it really helps to build an immersive world for once. And Call of or in Final Fantasy is really pushing sort of some of those things they can do in an M-rated video game
Hmm.
that some of the other games don't do lately. Like it makes some of the characters feel more real, seem like actual people who they have aspirations, hopes, dreams, flaws, and things you want to see in a character. It's not just like, we needed bad guy. This is bad guy A. Meet bad guy A, you
Okay.
know?
So is it living
So
up to the hype that all the like reviews came out? Like, is this a really
yeah,
solid game? Like the 9 out of 10s
this
it's
is
really getting.
this is a 9 out of 10 in my book. It's not a 10 out of 10, not by any means. Like, I have my moments where I'm like, but I haven't lost a fight yet, and it feels good. And the game gives you training wheels and says you can take them off at any time because you can trade your training wheels for power-ups. Do you want training wheels or power-ups in combat? And it really, you can feel that. They give you 5 choices for accessories, and you can only take 3 of these when you start the game, and they allow auto combos. They allow for auto dodge, not auto dodging, but dodge windows where they increase it and they tell you to press a button on the screen. They'll tell you they'll automatically use your companion so you don't have to. They'll automatically heal you whenever there's a moment in combat where it can do it. And it feels fluid at all times. And you can have three of these auto trinkets on, or you can trade them for actual stat boosting trinkets. And the idea is like if you're struggling to master a part of the gameplay, put on a trinket for a little bit. It will take care of that gameplay. You won't be as powerful, but the game may be easier to play.
Right, and that was something that they were talking about leading up to the launch of it.
Yeah.
Was how their approach to the accessibility options is that it instead of putting it in menus, it like built it into like actual features of the game and stuff like that. And that's a really
Yeah.
cool approach. I actually really like that because, like you said, if you want to make the game a little bit easier, you're putting on equipment like a trinket and stuff like that. Like that shit's in the game, and it's not a menu
Yeah.
at that point. So.
Yeah, like one of my favorite things is the combos. So you're supposed to weave your magic and melee together. You're an actual magus. So
Mhm.
you're supposed to use sword and magic, but your magic isn't strong enough to use it by itself. So you use the magic and you weave it in between your attacks. Well, it gets a little difficult because you're pressing square and triangle repeatedly trying to weave your attacks in. You can just literally hit square with this trinket, and your guy's like poof, 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 throwing magic between attacks, comboing, doing full things. Literally, you hit square, he'll dash into an opponent. That circle, he'll also throw out your special attacks, which are your trigger plus square or triangle. Like it does all of your button presses just by pressing square if you really want to. You can literally go through the whole game pressing square.
That's crazy,
Yeah,
man. I can't
if you
believe
want
it.
to play for the story, you can. And you can also not play for the story, but also play with these trinkets that give you that. And if you want to play for just the story, they can also include these trinkets in your character so you don't have to equip them anymore.
Mm.
So like when it asks you, it's like, do you want to play the story or do you want to play the game? And it's not like easy, medium, hard, very hard. It
Story
is
mode.
story, game mode. What do you want to play? You won't lose any story. You'll just get better gameplay. And I was like, definitely gameplay. And it feels good. I'm happy with it. And it makes it so that I can take the game at my own pace. Like I'm still rocking one of those trinkets because I don't want to command my ally to do his moves, my dog that follows me around. I let him do his own thing right now. I'm like, I don't need the other trinket slots yet because I don't want to be holding, hit left on the D-pad and then choose my abilities for my thing while also fighting with square and triangle, holding right trigger. I'm like, I'll just let him do his thing and I'll do mine. I'll forego one trinket slot for now.
This game sounds like how can I break my controller today? With all
Yeah.
the button mashing that you got to do.
And the bosses. This is the next thing I want to cover. Is Final Fantasy is known for bullet sponges, just like so many other games.
Right.
Ubisoft does it. Like so many story games do this bullet sponge boss. It doesn't feel like that. I haven't fought a boss going, God damn, I'm so tired of
Right.
mashing it. Like you have these bars that you stagger the boss. Once you stagger it, you do more damage and it feels good. And
Hmm.
I've never had to stagger a boss more than twice, it feels like. So it's not like I'm sitting there just
So is it similar
in the
to
middle of
like
this fight. And
Long Fallen Dynasty? After the first boss, because that one's fucking a nightmare. But all the other bosses, I feel like once we staggered them and did major damage to them, like it was pretty
Mhm.
quick. It didn't seem like a bullet sponge.
Yeah, and that's what it feels like. You're trying to get to that stagger to really do the big damage, but it didn't feel like I had to stagger them more than twice to get the finishing blow on the fight. I
Hmm.
feel like this Final Fantasy has figured out the balance between damage, like the ability to roll and get rolled.
Right. So let's talk about some of the games we've been streaming. I've been playing as my solo stream Hogwarts Legacy still, and the game's fun, man. Like there's just so much on the map too. Like sometimes I just have to block out all of the extra side nonsense that I see around. Like I passed this one girl going, I think, to the Defense Against the Art room, and she's just like, I wonder if a new student would like to help me, and I'm like, no, No, I
No,
wouldn't.
I don't. I
Because
don't. Thanks.
and every single time I go by her, she says the same thing, and I'm like, this shit's real cheesy. Like, I'm never going to do this mission. Like, it's just little stupid shit like that. But overall, like, combat has been fun, and just learning the new spells, and then like, but that's the interesting part because there's what fucking hundreds of spells it seems like, but you can only use four at one time because then you have to equip them
Yeah.
into different things. So I was wondering if there was a different approach they could have took. So instead of me having to like pause the game, basically swap out the spells and then use them, like I feel like there could have been a different thing to be able to use these spells.
I hate to say it, but I dropped Hogwarts Legacy. It just, yeah, exactly, Marshmallow. The only reason I'm gonna do this mission is to shut your fucking goddamn mouth. But like, there are a lot of characters in that game that I just don't like. Some of the story wasn't good. It felt really strong at first, but the more I played it, the more I'm like, wow, they could have made this better. And it's not like other games where we always say, I don't know what I could do to make this better. It's a 7 out of 10, but I don't know what to change to
This
make it
game, you
better.
have a whole
Hogwarts
list.
Legacy, you look at it, you're like, well, that would have been better. Oh, that morality system for
That's
using,
missing.
yeah, the thing they said, oops, we actually had an idea for this, but scrapped it. I was like, man,
That would have made the
that
game
would
way
have
better.
made the game better. It would have been like, Knights of the Old Republic kind of thing, where you're like, wow, dark side, light side points. And it's like, it's really interesting the things you could have done with this game, like so much more world building in certain parts. Like the puzzles started to repeat. It became a Ubisoft game in terms
Mm.
of puzzles. Oh my God, it became a Ubisoft game.
Don't tell me that. Like I feel like I'm decently far in the game, but I'm not that far. Like I haven't even gained the ability to fly around on my broomstick yet. So like I know I'm not that far into the game. So,
Hmm.
but the story's definitely setting up to something pretty cool. I just hope it doesn't get redundant, and I'm not going to be doing a bunch of side content just cause. Like
Yeah.
I love Harry Potter. I love that universe and stuff like that. But I don't love it as much as Star Wars, where I told you I went back and I basically did everything in Jedi Survivor. I'm not
Yeah.
doing that in this game. The game
No, yeah.
doesn't compel me enough to want to do that.
Yeah, I caught myself trying to do a bunch of the stuff in Hogwarts Legacy, and I was just like, I just can't. And whole pandas out here asking like, where would you rank this in games released this year so far? Where would you put it?
Hmm.
Where would you say this was the game of the year? Like,
Let me look at my games beaten this year, I guess, because I do rank them. I mean
mm,
games released this year, but like games that I played and beat this year. Like I almost put this around Atomic Heart, around 11 or 12, honestly, which is crazy to think. I played so many other great games
yeah.
this year.
So I have 4 games this year that I've beaten that were released this year. I have Tears of the Kingdom, Age of Wonders 4, Resident Evil 4 Remake, and Atomic Hearts. Atomic Hearts, I gave a 90 out of 100. So I redid my ratings, and like that game to me was super fun and well thought out. And I was like, this is a great game. Hogwarts Legacy started off like, wow, this is a great game. This is a 90 for me. And now it's at maybe an 80. Like I would
Hmm.
put it on the same tier as something like um let's see here. I would put it maybe around, it's lower than God of War Ragnarok for me, which I put it in 88. I'd put it lower than Luigi's Mansion 3. Like that was a
Okay.
game that I beat this year. I had more fun playing Luigi's Mansion 3 than I did playing Hogwarts Legacy. Like I didn't feel like I had to go around and do all the extra stuff in Luigi's Mansion, and the story felt fulfilling, and I didn't feel like I was wasting my time.
Right. Yeah, so like my list, like I had Star Wars is my number one game this year. Hi-Fi Rush is number two. Dead Space is number three. Planet of Lana was four. Ravenlock is five. Titanfall 2 is six. Lego Star Wars was seven. Unravel 2 was eight. Tinykin was nine. Midnight Fight Express is 10. And then 11 is Coffee Talk and Atomic Heart. And then I think between like 9 and 12 is where I'm going to probably end up putting Harry Potter at this point, unless it gets better. But I mean,
Hmm.
who knows? Honestly, we'll definitely see how that plays out because I feel like I have a little ways to go in the game.
Yeah, no, and I'm gonna give it the honest shake. It'll be beaten before the end of the year. That's my goal here. Um, but I don't think it's gonna be that game for me. Like I feel like there are so many other games. Like I played Prey this year, and I was like, wow,
Missed out on that
that's an
one.
amazing game, and that was 6 years ago. Hogwarts Legacy, I feel like isn't going to hold up.
Yeah, I think it's definitely setting up the franchise for maybe a success in the gaming industry now.
I think the big thing to take note is there was a lot of potential for this game, and there was a lot of things that were scrapped. And if it was the full game, I think it would have been better. But it goes to show just from the revenue that it generated, there is still hype dealing with Harry Potter.
Right, and the fact that like they can expand on this game, like they can kind of do what Cyberpunk just did with Phantom Liberty, with the upcoming DLC, is that basically with Phantom Liberty, it's like rewriting the whole game. Like they're changing a lot of the mechanics and a lot of the features, like the different things with the cyberware and stuff like that, where it's going to have a lot more detrimentals. Like if you put too much cybernetics into your body, there's going to be a lot more negative effects
You're
then.
going to get psychosis, cyber
Yes,
psychosis, which is a real thing
right.
that we really didn't deal with.
Right. So just adding stuff like that to the game, I think Harry Potter or Hogwarts Legacy could potentially do that with maybe a future DLC where they're like, you know what, we're going to bring back that system where like if you use this Avada
A
Kedavra on
morality system.
morality system, if you want to use it, then go ahead. You're going to be a dark wizard then. You're going to be on the dark side as opposed to a good wizard.
You're literally going to start dealing with things like Voldemort. Like
Hmm.
he wasn't a bad guy, but he turned bad
Right.
because of the things he did. He did unspeakable things. He became a lich. Like, dude. But let's hold off talking about games we played right now, and oh yeah, and wow, it's almost like Deus Ex Machina or Deus Ex Human Revolution did this already. The whole cyberware thing. Yeah, they did Marshmallow, and it doesn't stop it, like, because Cyberpunk originally was a tabletop RPG
Hmm.
that Cyberpunk 2077 is based off of. Like, that's based off of the tabletop RPG that did it first. But it's like, it's not, no concept is new, but like, if somebody did it right,
Yeah, it's
do
all
it right.
right.
You
It's all about
saw it.
it's the execution. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Executed perfectly. Just
But
real quick before we move on, I just want to
yeah,
cover Redfall. Redfall has been just a continuous mediocre game. There's some story arcs that me and Paul have been playing. We're like, man, this game could have been fucking great. This game could have been good, but they dropped the ball on this game on a lot of things. But there's a lot of highlights in the game too. So definitely come check out the stream. We'll probably be playing that later on tonight after the podcast, or probably actually no, probably around like 10 or 11. I'll be streaming it. But yeah, man, let's move on to the upcoming game releases. So Roger, there's a decent list here. Not as big as last week though.
all right. So let's talk about the games of this week. There's probably, maybe I'd say, two or three real good games that might be coming out this week, but I'm a little wary. First of all, we've got Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobe. This is the remaster of Destroy All Humans 2. It is the single player game. No multiplayer will be included in this, and that's coming for PS4, Xbox One only. I believe this is already released on other consoles. It's just getting the. No, no, it isn't. It is only coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It will not be hitting the new next gen consoles or PC, which is unique. Something that we don't see, and also, why a last gen game though?
Curious.
Next up, we have Story of Seasons. This is the original developer behind Harvest Moon. They left, recreated a new game based off of the original Harvest Moon IP playthrough. So, Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life is releasing for PS5, Xbox X and S, Switch, and PC. We then got AEW Fight Forever. This is coming out for PS5, Xbox X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. That's quite a few different things here. That's coming to the full selection of consoles, and that comes out on the 29th, which is Thursday.
The funny thing
Next,
is like this is
yeah,
another THQ Nordic game, and it's
yep,
coming to next gen. But then they were like, Destroy All Humans 2? Yeah, just last gen. I'm just like
just last gen.
that's an interesting business
Yeah,
move there.
no, definitely. But with Destroy All Humans 2 being a re-release, I could see it being like not as talked about as the original Destroy All Humans. Like, I don't even remember playing Destroy All Human 2. I know I did, but it wasn't as good. And like, I think they're just like, okay, we'll just release it real quick before maybe we get a new Destroy All Humans.
Yeah, probably.
Next up, we've got the Laura Croft collection. The Laura Croft collection is the collection of top-down Laura Croft games. It's a sort of Diablo style action RPG. You're playing top-down shooter, but you're going to be able to play with up to four of your friends, and it's only coming to the Switch. No other consoles, no PC, nothing else. That comes out on Thursday as well. Then on Friday, we have a big swath of games. We first got Crime O'Clock. Crime O'Clock is when I Spy meets detective agency games. It's coming out for Switch and PC. The idea is you're going to be looking at an I Spy sort of puzzle, looking for the crime that is actively happening. That comes out for Switch and PC on Friday. Next up, we've got Everybody 1-2 Switch coming out for the Switch
Yeah,
on
imagine that.
Friday. Imagine that. And then following that, we also have Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. This is the re-release of Ghost Trick. I believe this is a remake of the original game, Ghost Trick. That comes out for the
Hmm.
PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. That comes out on Friday.
Interesting.
Then
This
we have
game was originally on the DS.
that is correct. This is one of those little known Capcom games that came out on the DS era. One of my friend's favorite games. Something he's actually cosplay at conventions doing. But we also have Goodbye World coming out after that. This is an RPG game that released originally on the Switch and PC last year in November, but is now getting its console debut for PS5, Xbox X and S, PS4, and Xbox One. Goodbye World is a story following two characters as they go through their lives. I believe they're working to make a game, and you're following their sort of trials and turbulations of making a game as somebody who also has a full-time job, life that they have to deal with. So you're kind of it's in I don't want to call it a visual novel, but it's the same sort of concept, following in, a slice of life story. Then lastly, on Friday, we've got Master Detective Archives Raincode. This is only coming to Switch. This is the developer Danganronpa's newest game, coming from the studio that made Danganronpa 2, and Danganronpa 3, Happy Trigger. These guys have made a new IP called Master Detective Archives, and in this game, you are going to be a detective as opposed to a boy in a school trying to avoid getting executed.
Yeah,
And it's only coming to Switch, no other console.
I really like the steelbook. Let me see if I can get it up here on the screen here. Yeah. Um, here we go. It
The
seems
Steelbook.
yeah,
It's
the steelbook is
fire.
pretty fucking dope actually. I wouldn't mind having
Yeah.
the fucking plushie. It's pretty fucking dope. I wasn't expecting this game to have like a steel.
Well,
I don't even think about Switch games having steelbooks to be honest with you.
but they're the only ones that really have the game cases anymore, because most everything else tries to push digital copies way more than Nintendo does.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Just real quick though, you want to feel old? Destroy All Humans 2, originally released on October 17th of 2006.
Yep.
We were in the sixth grade when this came out.
That's a PS2 game right there, bud.
I was
That was
like,
a PS2
man,
fucking game,
that
dude.
that might have been rented from Blockbuster kind of days.
Yeah. So, Vic, what game, as we always do, what game would you pick up if you had to pick one?
Man, this is tough because I hate to say it, but I'm not feeling any of these. But maybe the Lara Croft collection, just because Tomb Raider is so huge. I mean, it's an iconic IP. It's been around for such
Why?
a long time.
But it's not like the OG Lara
I know,
Croft.
but
It's just
that's the
some,
thing. It's a different take on the series, you
I
know.
mean, like, this game is the meme. It's like, Mom, I want Lara Croft. We have Lara Croft at home.
Yeah,
Lara Croft
Croft
at
at
home.
home.
And
Yes.
you're like, oh, wow, this is actual garbage. Thanks.
And I mean that just goes to show this list here is just it's a pretty shitty week. I mean, maybe everybody want to Switch would be a nice party game to pick up to play with some friends, but
Honestly, I think just because you sleep on the genre, the Master Detective Archives Raincode, I think, is honestly going to be one of those games that's going to show up at the Game Awards. It's definitely going to be Game Awards tier. It's not going to be Game of the Year, but it's definitely going to be something that shows up there.
I want it
I
just
think
just
the
for the
closest
steelbook.
it looks like such a good game. I love visual novels, and this is going to be a new take on the Danganronpa series. Like, Danganronpa is a really dark, fun, well-known, highly successful series. For them to do a new game, not in the Danganronpa universe, but with that sort of art palette and storytelling, I think
Hmm.
this could be a really good game.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I know those games are huge, and I know they recently were brought to Xbox Game Pass, so I know anybody can definitely go check those out. And it's cool to see that they're diving into a new IP, just like Atlas is doing with the new Metaphor Refantasia, whatever the
Hmm.
hell that new title's called. So,
Yeah,
but
that,
yeah, I
and
definitely sleep on JRPGs. They're just
they're
not my
not
cup
it.
of tea.
But second has to definitely be Story of Seasons, followed by third, I think AEW. I wouldn't choose AEW until number three, Marshmallow, and I am sorry, but I am just not a wrestling fan. And looking at this, I was just like, eh. You know what? You can prove me wrong. Let's play it. You get the game, we play it, all right? You gotta just prove me wrong because honestly, it just looks like meh.
Yeah, it looks meh. It
It looks meh.
looks like NBA Live compared to NBA 2K. Like that's the comparison. Like NBA Live is just like eh, but then
Yeah, I was
2K is
looking
over
at
there like
the
alright, cool.
actual I was looking at the gameplay and it kind of just feels it just doesn't feel as sharp. It feels very much like 2020s, 20 early 2020s like 2020 or even 2016 like
Hmm.
with the graphics they just don't feel like where I would want a game based on real life to be.
Right, right. Hopefully
Okay, all
Marshmallow's
right.
right if they're going
Marshmallow,
for
I
that.
didn't realize they were going for an older arcade look. If that's the case, then yeah, I could definitely they've hit the nail on the head. But that's not the aesthetic I'm looking for.
Right. So if you're okay, we can go ahead and move on to the industry news because
Mhm.
boy do we have a lot to get to here. So just gonna run it through real quick before we actually get to the meaty part of it. Is Activision Blizzard? There's some investigators confirmed that there are 29 incidents of harassment, discrimination, or retaliation by employees just this last year. So we already know how toxic this is, but the investigation's going through, and they're like, yeah, this is much worse than we thought. On top of that, workers were terminated for discriminatory language, unwanted advances, non-consensual touching, among other things. And I'm just like, holy shit! Like, what is going on here with Activision Blizzard? Like, it's oh, man, it's so bad. But
It's a boys club kind of thing, and
yeah,
it's sad to see. And like you have to step back and go, what teams do you think are actually doing this? Is it the Activision or the Blizzard side? Because
right.
yes, they're Activision Blizzard, but they have two separate teams. One's working on WoW, Diablo, Call of Duty. Where are these teams? Where is this culture coming from?
Yeah, exactly. Marshmallow, if they could use all the Battle Pass PVE money for therapy, that'd be great. But man, Activision Blizzard obviously in the news with Microsoft due to the acquisition, and we got a big time update in regards to the FTC court that the court filing that's been going on. Just I'm gonna run through a bunch of these. Obviously, Roger, if you want to chime in on any of these, definitely be more than welcome to that. First off, Sony's Jim Ryan said in a deposition back in April that if Microsoft acquisition of Activision happened, Sony won't share any PS6 information with Activision developers, saying they will not be able to share relevant future console info to a developer owned by a competitor. Man, I was just like, so you're so afraid that they're going to make Call of Duty for your platform worse, but you're going to be the reason why that game's worse on your console because you're not going to give them the tools to do so. And I'm just like, that shit's so weird. Like Xbox puts so many of their first party titles on PlayStation. Like all of the Minecraft games, obviously now Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, which were contracts that were pre acquisition, but still that like they followed through, they honored that kind of stuff. And recently, like if it wasn't for the MLB making Sony bring MLB the Show to Xbox, Sony still wouldn't bring that game to Xbox. So it's just like PlayStation don't give a damn, honestly. And Jim Ryan is just, I think he's losing it. But any thoughts on them not sharing their developer kits for the PS6?
It's posturing. It's what it is. It's them saying, we're gonna make a worse game, we're gonna make your product worse, but really it's just gonna be people aren't gonna want to play that game on their console. So are they gonna get the console anymore? Probably not. Like a big portion of PlayStation sales come from Call of Duty. Let's be honest here. We've seen it in their marketing, we've seen it in their actual revenue streams.
Right. And the funny thing is, you know how like Jim Ryan's been like, "Oh man, we can't lose Call of Duty. Like that's how we pay for our first party titles." Well, apparently that's not the case. Jim Ryan apparently is not concerned if Call of Duty does leave the platform, leaves PlayStation altogether, due to an email that has been surfaced from him, his communications with the rest of the organization, that's just really mind blowing. Like he's just putting on a
Well,
show, and then like,
but
we're
I
okay.
think I think the thing to also take into account is you can't just go around screaming fire in your own business. He has to stay optimistic because he is the one in charge, so he needs to make sure that this internal email that we see, this was sent to his people saying, "Hey guys, if we lose COD, it's okay. We'll be fine." Because if they lose COD, what happens to morale? Morale is going to tank, and he wants to make sure that that morale stays there because if it tanks, it's only going to hurt the business. So he has to be, yeah, we're going to be fine. Whether or not it's going to hurt a lot or there's going to be a lot of layoffs because of revenue that's missed, that's a different thing. But we still need to, you can't just be like, well, if we lose this, you guys are fired. Like you can't send emails like that.
Yeah. Also, what was confirmed during the FTC was the Machine Guns Indiana Jones game was originally planned for the PS5, but it is now an Xbox exclusive. And basically, this was a contract that was signed with Disney pre-acquisition, but then Disney was like, "We're open for amendments with Xbox because Disney's already for it. I mean, Disney has already given PlayStation Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and now Wolverine. So Disney is open to giving these IPs exclusive to certain ones, and Xbox wanted to have their own exclusive Disney title, and this is it. And we're going to get Indiana Jones. This will be hopefully a competitor to the Uncharted series, and this could be what we're looking for. But it was funny. I seen the tweets. They were like world premiere from the FTC courtroom, and I was like, yeah, that shit's funny. Um, then another claim from the FTC here is they claim cloud gaming and Xbox Game Pass are the same. And me and you kind of had a conversation just going back and forth, and I was just like, I don't think it's the same thing, but I can like,
Yeah.
I just don't see it.
So it's not that they said they are the same. They said they're the same market, and that is true. They are both online gaming. Whether that be that the game you stream to your console or you download to your console, it's still that sort of same end goal is you're getting a cloud game. You don't own a CD, you don't have the game here. You have to get the game from somewhere, whether you download all the files or you stream it. They're saying that the market there is the same. You're looking at online gaming. You're looking at games that come from a cloud service,
Right.
whether that be the game's
And thank good
files or the playing it.
and if that's the case, thank goodness Xbox did what they did, because apparently what's also come out from this is the fact that Microsoft also thought about like keeping xCloud. If you wanted to play games over the cloud, you would have to pay for a separate subscription, and so
Mhm.
instead they built it into Game Pass where you didn't have to pay for a separate subscription. It's part of here. Now you choose how you
Correct.
want to play. So that they did like a
And
pro consumer.
and don't get me wrong, I agree with that move. That was a smart move because some of these games they have in the catalog are unplayable on certain consoles, and now it allows them to drop last gen.
Right.
That's the thing. Like, if they didn't do this, they were going to shoot themselves in the foot. So was it pro
Hmm.
consumer or pro not shooting myself in the foot?
Right.
Because this came out during the pandemic, and this really thrived during the pandemic when we didn't have the next gen Xbox. You couldn't buy it if you wanted it. So
Hmm.
guess what? These new games are coming out for new consoles. Now you can stream it,
Right.
even if you have a shitty Xbox.
Yeah, the Xbox One.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
which is awesome because it's like one
it
of
was
those like no player left behind. Okay, you may not be able to afford the next gen, or you may not even be able to get your hands
but
on
we're
one.
gonna get your money. That's the thing. We're
Yeah,
gonna get your Game Pass subscription, and because if we did cloud gaming and not Game Pass, then what are you doing? Because like, do I have to buy the game on the cloud gaming? How would have they worked separately? That's the real question. Am I going to pay per game in the cloud gaming, or do I pay for cloud gaming and play your whole list off the cloud and then pay for Game Pass to play your whole list on my console?
Yeah, it could have
Like,
got
now
pricier.
you see where the same market comes into play here, because what happens when the two are separate? How do you
Well, you
how do
wouldn't need
you
Game Pass
interact?
to play them. Um, you would you would just in turn buy the game like you would normally do, but instead of downloading it, you would just play it via via stream. But then you're also
Yeah.
paying for that ability to stream it though. So it's
Yeah.
a more
So
expensive
now
route.
you're not buying a subscription to cloud gaming, you're buying the game and getting a cloud streaming license, if you will.
Right.
So it gets a little funky, because like delivering the content to the consumer becomes really challenging if they weren't bundled. So they're kind of in the same market. It's all Game Pass in this sense. Because at the end of the day, the cloud gaming is just, we're allowing Game Pass to be cloud as well.
Right. Yeah, so because you could play basically every game or most games on Game Pass via cloud, but I've also played games where I bought and just I streamed my entire Xbox. It turns my Xbox on at home while I'm
Yeah.
at work, and I play my Xbox from.
And you're not playing cloud gaming, you're just playing, because cloud gaming would imply that you're pulling the game from their cloud, not
Hmm.
your own
Well,
home cloud.
well, apparently that's how what they call it, like it because it plays it
Yeah.
through their cloud somehow. Who knows how that shit really works? But some more news here. Sarah Bond was testifying here that Activision forced Microsoft into a new Call of Duty revenue deal, and Activision refused to work on an Xbox Series S and X version of Call of Duty unless the revenue was reached. And I was like, holy fuck! Like they were bullying these people for this shit. Like
Well,
Activision
at
Blizzard
the end of the day,
almost didn't put Call of Duty on Xbox because of them not wanting because Call of Duty wanted more money. They were being greedy as hell, is what they were
well,
doing.
and that's the thing. That's their game. If they don't want to get it on Microsoft, so maybe this is why Microsoft is trying to buy Activision
It could
Blizzard, because
be
they're like, "Fuck you. We don't want to buy
right.
COD. We're gonna buy
You
you and then just own it."
right.
So like, you're kind of dealing with the idea here that this is their game. Fuck you. If you don't want to pay them, then you don't get it. But at the same time, if you don't get it, then they lose market share anyway. So honestly, it they didn't bully Microsoft into it. Microsoft just had to agree to what they had to agree to. And if they didn't want to, then they didn't get the game. But it's
Right.
not PlayStation's fault, for example. So this is Activision Blizzard's fault why Microsoft maybe might be
Yeah,
buying them,
yeah.
is because they're like, fuck you, we don't want your deal anymore. We want your game.
Right, and I think it's somewhere on the list here. I'll just kind of skip it and move it up here because it ties into why Xbox ended up buying Bethesda in ZeniMax, Bethesda ZeniMax, because of Redfall and Starfield were supposed to be apparently PlayStation exclusives after Deathloop, after Ghostwire Tokyo, which were supposed to be PlayStation exclusives to never come to the Xbox. And Xbox was like, you know, we're not going to miss out on all these damn games. We're just going to buy you and make sure that these games come to Xbox, and we'll decide later if these games are going to come to the PlayStation 5 now. And that's
Now, see, this is the problem. What did you just say they did? They bought
bought
them
them.
and made them Xbox Microsoft exclusives. So now what
Hmm.
happens when we buy what happens when we buy Activision Blizzard? Do we just say fuck the deal and we'll pay the fines for
Hmm.
breaking our contracts? Like, until we have T's and C's that say you have to sell your company if you break this, who cares? Like, they'll just,
Hmm.
Microsoft's going to break the deal. We know
Mike,
it's going to happen.
Microsoft isn't going to make Call of Duty exclusive. I know that they've already said that they would. They would
There's
probably
too much
shut.
money to
There,
be
yeah,
made.
yeah. There's too much money to be
There's too
made
much money to be
because
made.
they know how large the PlayStation player base is. They would
But
lose on.
that doesn't mean that the rest of the catalog starts going exclusive.
Right,
That's the thing.
which
Anything that
which is
comes out of Activision Blizzard could start going exclusive.
I'm sure it'll be a
And
game by game scenario, just
it
same way
will.
how they handle Bethesda
It
games.
will. But that's the thing. It's a big acquisition. This is a big gaming market. So this still could be anti-consumer, because a lot of people who have PlayStation may now start losing out on a ton of games that they previously wouldn't have had to worry about because they weren't in a console war. They were Activision Blizzard, so they did their decisions at will. But now Microsoft's like, hey, we own this.
Right. Um, Next up, let me see where I'm at here with the long list because there's a bunch of shit we're covering. Okay, number
Oh yeah.
six. As per Sarah Bond's statement, January 2025 is the earliest Call of Duty will be on Game Pass or GeForce Now because basically, like, if they own it, they're gonna put it. They already promised those all those other 10-year
Hmm.
deals that we're gonna bring Call of Duty to your platform. The earliest it could happen is 2025, and that is due to the previous agreements that Activision Blizzard has with Sony.
Yeah.
Um, so that's interesting to see there. And next up, Valve was tied into this too, was saying that they're happy without a Call of Duty agreement because they quote they told us they had no need to sign that agreement and that they believed us that we would continue to provide it on Steam. So basically, Valve is taking Activision Blizzard's word, like that trust is there between Valve
Hmm.
and Microsoft that okay, yeah, they're going to bring it to our platform. We don't have nothing to worry about, and that's
And
cool.
and at the end of the day, if they didn't, they're like, whatever, you're
Yeah.
lost because we're the biggest computer market in the scene. So if you don't want to bring it to us, you can try to sell it yourself, but you might not.
Right, because obviously we see how bad the Activision Blizzard launcher is. I'd rather buy it just straight from Steam, which Call of Duty has been like hit or miss on Steam already.
Yeah.
It's like they'll add it later, like down the road. So it's like, whatever. Next up was an interesting part. This is a quote. Today showed Sony has known all along we stand by our promise to keep games on its platform and made it clear its work is to lobby against the deal is to protect its dominant position in the market. End quote, says Microsoft about Jim Ryan's bombshell email. Basically, the email was just talking about
Yeah.
how he was saying everything will be fine, and really just goes to show that PlayStation is out just to sabotage the deal and make sure that they keep the number one
I
spot in the market.
I and I think we jump back to where I said you can't yell fire in a crowded room kind of thing. Like he's the guy with the authority in the crowded room. You can't just start yelling fire. Like Marshmallow said, private, bring me my brown pants. You can't let people know you shit your pants. Like you need to be commanding and you need to steer morale. But also at the same time, we're talking about revenue when we talk about the size of the gaming industries, but with the purchase of Activision Blizzard, Microsoft's in number two. They are for not net revenue, but for the actual value, their net value for their company, for just the sliver that is Xbox gaming will now be number two. So yeah, that is threatening to Sony that we're now looking at bigger monopolies because now instead of having another smaller fish in the pond, which makes their own games, we're looking at them being a part of Microsoft. This is a big, big purchase that is going to mean a lot of monopolistic effect in the industry.
Yeah, I just think it to make like I feel like you just got to be fair. Like you can't do make decisions just to keep a company in its dominant position. Like you got to give another company a
Oh yeah,
chance
yeah,
to
and I
become
don't
number
agree
one.
with Sony or Tencent being as big as they are, you know. But at the end of the day, I think we still need to look at not allowing huge game industry purchases because at some point you're only going to have one, two, or three game designers and a bunch of indie studios and nothing in between. We're getting rid of the middle class of games, if you will.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's definitely that it's going to be like a balancing act and whatnot. So we'll definitely see. What else we got here? It says FTC argues that the Xbox exclusive content would be bad, and they're alluding to like skins and different like small cosmetic stuff, and they were like,
Or
PlayStation, but
PlayStation already has it.
PlayStation does this already. They do it with Harry Potter. They're about to do it with the upcoming Avatar game. They've done it with Destiny. They
Hmm.
do it with Call of Duty currently, and it's just like, why is it okay for PlayStation to do it, but as soon as Xbox thinks about
Yeah.
do it, even though they've never even said it yet, but they're like, oh man, if Xbox does it, it's the end of the world. Yeah,
And
exactly. Avengers. I forgot about that. The
yeah.
garbage fucking fire of a game that was Avengers. Spider Man. A whole fucking part of the game was exclusive to them and would not come to
Mhm.
Xbox, and it's still never going to come to Xbox.
And don't get me wrong, I'm with you. I don't agree with this. And that is a problem. I agree.
Yeah, mind blowing. One positive thing that did come out of this is that the Outer Worlds 2 may not be an exclusive to Xbox, which is awesome to see that, okay, we're starting to see where it is a game by game basis where not every game that they announce is going to be exclusive. And Outer Worlds 2 was originally on all platforms, so why not continue to bring that next iteration to it? Because, I mean, we've seen it where previous games, like the first iteration game, was multi-plat, but then the sequels after that became exclusive. So it made you like Hellblade. If I'm not mistaken, I think Hellblade 2 is going to be an Xbox exclusive, where Hellblade 1 was on all platforms. So, we'll definitely wait and see. I mean, Outer Worlds 2 is not for a while here. Next up, point 11. Microsoft says Activision has not released Call of Duty on Nintendo Switch because Activision believes it would not make enough money on the platform to justify the development costs.
Facts.
Really? You think so?
Mhm.
With the
Oh,
amount
yeah.
of Nintendo players there are, it wouldn't be like
The
worth it.
Switch can't even support it, so people are gonna play on it. They're like, "This is garbage." Because, like, remember you said TTK. The
Mhm.
TTK is so high on the Switch. You're just like, "Oh, frame drop dead."
Yeah, I'm just curious to see if it is possible to make Call of Duty. I mean, I don't like
It
Call of
probably
Duty.
is, but
Call of
then
Duty
you have
used to
to
come to
stream
Nintendo.
it.
Call of Duty used to come to Nintendo platforms, and I know
Mhm.
games are much bigger now, but like I I
I
feel like they
mean,
could make it.
My Switch's internal storage isn't as big as Call of Duty is.
You have to get the expansion SSDs or the micro SD cards big enough. Yeah, I get it. I mean, so it'd be curious to see how that'll work out, but it don't matter if this deal goes through. Microsoft already said, hey, we plan on bringing Call of Duty to the Nintendo platform, which that would be awesome to see there. Next up here, point 12. Sony uses its revenue from Microsoft games to block games from coming to Xbox. And what this alludes to is Phil Spencer broke it down to like PlayStation gets 30% revenue from games that they release onto their platform, and then they take that amount of money that they get from that. And the same thing with Xbox. Like they'll release like Minecraft games on the PlayStation. PlayStation keeps a part of that cut. And basically, what they're saying is any of that money is getting recycled and used to block content from coming to Xbox, like Final Fantasy 16, which has been confirmed that PlayStation made it made it aware that we want this game to be exclusive to make sure it's not on Xbox. Is their whole thing. So that's not a pro consumer move. Like you really don't care about the gamers
It
at that
isn't.
point.
It definitely isn't. But that's the thing. I don't agree with what they're doing. I don't agree with what PlayStation is doing. But at the same time, I don't agree with the acquisition from Microsoft and Activision Blizzard for other reasons. And I think a lot of the industry needs to we're getting blinded by the fact that we're like, it's PlayStation. That's the reason we're not allowed to do it. And like there should be more than just PlayStation, but they made enough of a rumble that they're like, we're gonna be the ones to push the lawsuit. So it kind of became a Microsoft versus Place or Sony versus Microsoft, even though it shouldn't have been.
Right, because I mean, everyone else in the world is like, yeah, we're for it.
Sure.
Like all the other developers are like, yeah, we're for it. Go ahead, it makes sense. It's gonna apparently to them, it's gonna make the gaming industry better, and it could. Well,
Could.
we don't know because I mean, obviously we see how toxic Activision Blizzard is now. Anyway, hopefully, like we talk about all the time, that gets cleaned up, and that's gonna make game development better because we see how stagnant Call of Duty is. Maybe Call of Duty needs that breath of fresh air of new management, and you know what I mean, just a new look. But moving on here to our next point. Let's see. We skipped 13 because we already covered it. That Starfield was potentially going to skip Xbox. 14. Microsoft had to secure content to remain viable in the business. That's basically their reasoning for buying these
Mhm.
companies because they feel like if they would have missed out on all the games from Activision Blizzard, all the games from Bethesda, ZeniMax Studios, Xbox could have shuttered their doors because they wouldn't have
Mhm.
had the content being able to come to their platform. So to basically work around that, we're just going to buy you at that point since we have no other chance to do this. So,
I and that is a fair statement that I can get behind. They're not buying it to grow, they're buying it to make sure that their other platform can stay in the market. And I can agree with that. And that's fine, but the size of Activision Blizzard is half of Sony. Half of Sony, not the gaming division, but Sony.
hmm
Like that's a pretty big acquisition. Like they're literally buying half of Sony with this acquisition.
yeah. Next up, yes, Phil Spencer confirmed that Sony paid for it. Yep, covered that earlier with Final Fantasy 16. 16th point is witness brought in by the FTC has overturned the main argument of the regulator. He says he declared that Stadia and cloud services compete with console and PC and says they are one market. So basically, they're saying cloud gaming is the same thing as console gaming, which is kind of what we were kind of talking about
Yeah.
earlier. So it just puts it all in the same market. So then they were like, well, damn, like if it's the same market, then like
Yeah, and that's the problem. It's not that like physical sales and cloud gaming are the same market. It's the physical sales versus online like direct to like digital sales,
Right.
digital market. The digital market versus a physical market where you're doing subscriptions or the subscription versus the purchase market.
Hmm.
That's the two markets.
Yeah. The issue here is like the FTC is trying to argue that Microsoft would have such a dominant play in cloud gaming, and then they were like, "Well, shit, cloud gaming is the same thing as console gaming," and we just fucked that up. Now, like their main argument kind of just went against them because
Yeah.
they figured it out. They're like, "Oh shit."
The
So,
way we phrased it was bad.
yeah, they're like, yeah, that didn't work out for us. You know what? This stuff gets even funnier here because Judge Corley, who is the main person that's overseeing this court hearing, is um, everyone's thinking that he's getting fed up with the FTC's line of questioning here. Basically, I was following these guys like live on Twitter, and they were like, Judge, it's a she, my bad. She cut off the FTC's questioning twice because they were like, I didn't need that. That was unnecessary. Like you're doing stuff that doesn't make sense. These questions aren't valid.
They're irrelevant.
Yeah, they're irrelevant stuff, and they're just proving more points why okay, the FTC has no grounds for the argument. I mean that's really how it's going right now. And it says that the FTC lawyer were asking Phil Spencer to make commitments to put Xbox game on PlayStation Cloud, and Judge hopped in saying, mid question, and asked Phil Spencer to step down. I had enough. And it was crazy. It says apparently there was an audible oof in the courtroom after the judge Corley cut off the FTC questions, saying, "I don't need that. I'm going to cut off your questioning." And I was just like, "Well, damn." The judge is like, I can't do this no more."
And like if they had approached the cloud gaming in a specific way, it would have been valuable because at this point, Microsoft with the acquisition of Activision Blizzard is going to be unstoppable in the cloud market. I'm talking about subscriptions and cloud gaming. I mean anything that isn't direct to consumer sales, they are going to crush.
Yeah.
And the only way to play on that market is to play on PC or Xbox. PlayStation will never, ever get this kind of like, you're not going to find Xbox games on PSN Plus or PSN Now. You're not going to have it on the PlayStation subscription in the same way you're having
We
these
have
Xbox games. We have,
all the
but
Minecraft
not as
games, Minecraft Legends and Dungeons.
yeah,
They all
that's
came to
like the
PS
only one.
Plus. Yeah. I mean,
The
technically, Deathloop.
exclusives, though, that's an exclusive that was before Microsoft purchased them, and
Yeah.
that was already a standing deal. That's why it's
Yeah.
there. But a lot of these things, like Microsoft isn't going to put their big crown jewels in PlayStation Plus. Why would you put your crown jewels in somebody else's subscription service?
Right, yeah,
Just
exactly.
make people
Inhuman.
get
It
your
was
own.
more than just COD. It was all of ABK's future games to bring to
Yep.
PlayStation. But like Xbox has been trying to make an agreement with PlayStation, and PlayStation's like, nope, we don't want to sign it. But like, it's like, what more do you want? Like, I'm giving you the chance to have everything you want, but you don't want to take it. You just want to make sure you're number
Because
one.
hey, you don't. At the end of the day, though, you still try to be number one, and this is going to put Blizzard in, or this is going to put Microsoft in the number two spot. They're still not Tencent level because Tencent's twice the value of Sony, and Sony and Microsoft. If they came together and also had Activision Blizzard, and that became one company, then they would be on the same level as Tencent.
Yeah.
So we have a whole different issue here where number one is way ahead of the pack, but two and three, they're trying to gut each other. They both want the spot for number two, and this is the fight for the spot.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then our last point here is Phil Spencer claims that they have made acquisitions because Sony makes third-party deals to block Xbox releases for certain games, and says they couldn't fall further behind. So it was just a reiteration of what we were talking about earlier, and it makes sense because he's getting tired of
Yeah,
seeing deals like Final Fantasy
definitely.
16, not even Deathloop. I mean, Deathloop was beginning of it, but um, just all the third-party ones. They're just like, nope, PlayStation exclusive this and PlayStation exclusive that because they're
Well, just stop for a second and look at what happened with Microsoft and Atlas. We just got the biggest upset. Fuck any of the deals they're talking about. Microsoft literally just had a whole game developed for them by Atlas that will only come to their console.
No, it's
Are they
coming to
really
PlayStation
that?
too. It's coming to the
Not
PlayStation. They confirmed
not
it.
for a while.
No, it's coming the same day and
Right,
date.
day
Yeah,
one.
yeah, day one.
So
It's coming to
so
all
then who
platforms.
cares? This is Atlas has only ever really cared about PlayStation.
Right.
They've only Persona, the whole series, PlayStation. Like this is their we're
The
starting a new
Yakuza,
IP. We'll
the
put it in here.
the Yakuza
Yakuza,
series was all
whole
about
series is
PlayStation.
now,
Yeah, now
but
it's
it's
all
now on.
it's on Xbox. It's on
So
Game
like
Pass. Yeah.
I get what they're saying, but at the end of the day, they're going to, even without the purchase of Activision Blizzard, they have enough money that they can throw around. They're gonna, yeah, Redfall, exactly. But they're not,
Could have
it's
let them
not gonna
have
work.
it. In fact.
Yeah, you could have let them have it, yeah. But and at the end of the day, I'm just like, I don't see the issue because like yeah, there are a few games like Final Fantasy has always traditionally been on Sony. I don't think Microsoft had a an ice cube's chance in hell to get it because Microsoft has never been there and Sony and Square Enix have a real tight partnership. They've been hand in hand for many years. Square Enix has always put their games on a Sony console. So I think it just it depends on the developer and I don't think it's Sony buying them out. Yes, Sony's adding money into the pile, but you can see how successful they are by the fact that they're just like, we've cosmetics and like a mission for $15. And you're like, I don't, who needs that shit? Like that, I didn't buy Hogwarts Legacy on their console just because I got an extra DLC. I was like, oh, cool. I'm never going to play it, but cool,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, I don't think it's a big deal as we're making it. I think Microsoft is using that as their red herring, just like Sony is like, oh, Call of Duty. It's they're both coming up with bullshit arguments, and I think they're both, have their heads up their asses.
Right. Yeah. Square Enix is definitely looking to sell, which is crazy. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sony puts in a bid to buy out the whole fucking company at this point.
And that would be huge. That
Right.
would definitely be huge because Square Enix used to just be Square, then they bought Enix, and now they're Square Enix. So like they haven't been successful for a while, but they've always had that partnership. And going to Microsoft, I don't think they would have had the sales that they have now, putting their game on.
No, no, just because of the market, because like the
Yeah,
Japanese market
exactly.
alone is way bigger on PlayStation
Hmm.
than it is on Xbox. So why not keep it on JRPGs on the most dominant console in Japan? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Microsoft needs to buy Platinum for more. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Microsoft has a good partnership, like or like just close workings with Platinum, and I think that would make sense because Microsoft said they're not done with acquisitions anyway, which we'll see how that plays out. That probably won't be for a while, and this all depends on what this deal happens. Because if this deal doesn't go through, that means Microsoft has $69 billion to
They're
fuck
gonna
around
buy
money.
somebody, and
Right.
honestly, if they don't buy Activision Blizzard, good. I would rather them buy. There are a lot better companies out there to buy right now, and a lot of unsuccessful companies that are truly failing that we could get some really good IPs from if they saved them.
Right, like Ubisoft. Ubisoft, I
Yeah,
think, could use
yeah.
a purchase or a shakeup, massive
EA,
shakeup.
EA. We'll talk about EA in a minute here. I'll get to that right after we get through PlayStation, Summer Games
Yeah.
Fest, Twitch. I'll get there.
So enough of the Microsoft Activision Blizzard update. Let's move on to PlayStation specifically here.
All right. So, Ghost of Tsushima is getting a movie. The director is looking to expand further into sequels and TV. So, exciting. Ghost of Tsushima was a really good game. We might be seeing more in this franchise. It may not have just been a one-off. But Vic, what's going on with Summer Games Fest?
Yeah, just a quick update because it kind of broke, and I was just like, I didn't even pay notice to it because I mean we watched it, we streamed it live, but Jeff Keighley has acknowledged the diversity criticism that he received because there were apparently no women on stage. And I was just like, oh shit, like that's never good. Like usually, like shows and stuff like that, they always try to make sure they have a person of color and whatever it is, woman. It's a broad and really diverse crowd, and I was just like, I didn't even pay any
There was
mind
a
to
lot of white men. That's
it.
all I saw.
Yeah. Now, like going back thinking about it, I was like, yeah, holy shit. And Jeff Keighley was
He
like,
screwed
yeah.
up.
I was like, he was like, yeah, I fucked up. And my guess is he'll make it up to in the August event, and then obviously December, GamesCon. So
Yeah,
we'll definitely
and
see him
and
rebound.
on the same aspect though, it's not all his fault. The people who sent the people from these companies, they sent their own people. They put the people on top. And look who runs all these companies. Rich white men.
Yep. Unfortunately.
Let's talk about Twitch here, though. Twitch is adding a new content classification label system for mature content. You will now have six new mature content labels, including mature rated games, sexual themes, drugs, intoxication, excessive tobacco use, violence and graphic depictions, significant profanity and vulgarity, and gambling. So if you have any one of those things, you'll now have a tag for your mature streams to show why it's mature.
Yeah, that was awesome to see. I mean, that was like the only good news I think we've seen from Twitch in all year.
And it's
Everything else
just
has been
nice to
pretty
know
shitty.
why something's mature.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because if you're like, oh, it's mature, and obviously it's for a kid, and you're like, oh, it's whatever.
Yeah, because
Like
like
there's certain
maybe I
things
don't
you're
want
more
my
okay.
kid. Yeah, I'm fine with my kids seeing drug and alcohol use. It's whatever. I don't care.
Right.
Like, but if my kids saw like a dude gambling, I don't want them to like think that's okay to just like blow a bunch of money because I don't have money to blow. I don't want them blowing my money like that. Like,
Right.
let's be
Because
honest.
then he's gonna go play Fortnite and gamble your money away that way. I mean, they don't got loot boxes in
I
there, but
mean, but like the idea between like I don't want him to sitting there spending $20 in MTGA to just buy packs of cards. I'm like, I'll buy physical cards. Don't buy shit in the game. Just play the game to buy your wealth.
right.
But let's talk about EA though before we move to gaming news. EA is facing a lawsuit about college football video games. So currently EA is trying to go around the group that they have signed an agreement with for college athletes. So they're supposed to go through a firm that will then line them up with deals for college athletes. They are now instead offering $500 to the athletes to use their likeness with no royalties. So
Yeah.
they're currently going around the legal agreement that they had to just say, we'll just give you $500 and call it a day. I
five hundred
like that.
dollars isn't shit.
Dude, I make yeah, that ain't shit at all. So like it's definitely a big problem because now they're just like they're trying to get these people in really shitty deals for pennies. But with that happening, EA is now facing a shakeup. EA is now being split in half. We are having two new EAs based off of the original EA. So EA Sports and EA Games are now splitting as two separate companies. EA Sports will continue to be called EA Sports, whereas EA Games will now be known as EA Entertainment. The idea is EA Games is trying to pull itself away from the EA Sports world because the EA Sports world is kind of doing some shitty stuff we just talked about. Not gonna lie, there's other things going on there too.
Right. And it's interesting here though is like being renamed to EA Entertainment is like apparently they want to dive into like being able to branch off a lot of their games into like the TV and the movie adaptations, and it's easier for them to just
Well,
put
everyone
all that
wants
under
that.
that. Yeah, and it
Yeah,
makes sense.
everyone wants a monolithic, like, this is our universe.
Yeah. Which is good to see like all the cross media and stuff like that because like it's starting to work, it's starting to blend really well. The production value is there, the quality of the content is there. Like it definitely makes sense. Not like back in the day where like a game was made into a movie and you're like this was
Yeah,
garbage.
and Inhuman Line down there has the right idea. He's saying, like, they're just trying not to get sued for all their money, split into two companies. Genius.
Yeah, it's
That is
fucking smart.
actually genius. Sucks, but that's how business works.
That's incredible. But
All
that's
right,
enough of our industry news. Let's go ahead and move on to our gaming news. So, we got to kick it off with our Xbox update. Just some updates that were kind of just like random tweets and random things throughout the week. Perfect Dark and State of Decay 3 are on track for gameplay deep dives within the next 18 months, and that was confirmed via Phil Spencer, which is awesome to see because we didn't see these at the most recent Xbox game showcase or the extended showcase. Apparently, like the builds of the game of both of these are playing really well, and there's a lot of anticipation behind both of these titles. But that'll be awesome to see, though. I think we'll probably see both of these games at next year's showcase, whether it's the main
But
one or
like
their
State
extended
of
one.
Decay 3 came out like the announcement was in 2020 and we're now 3 years down the road and they're like maybe another 18 months. And I'm
It's
like,
because
why did you even show it to me?
right,
Fuck.
that was the whole problem with Microsoft there,
Fuck.
like 2020 time frame. They were like, we have this, and this. We just don't know when it's going to come out. And then, I mean, think about it. Excuse me.
Now we're sleeping on them all.
Hellblade 2 was announced with the Xbox Series X when that was announced, and that game still isn't out.
Yep.
So it's crazy. But next up here is Xbox Game Studio head Matt Booty, because we actually don't really hear from Matt Booty a lot, but obviously he's been more vocal as over the past couple weeks with everything that's been going on. He says the first party teams are aware that the expectations going forward will be to showcase gameplay for their titles, as opposed to like CGI and just random ass trailers. And I'm like,
Who would have guessed that's a what a valued like a really good strategy? Who would have
well,
thought?
yeah, who would have thought? I want to see gameplay for video games and not just a movie trailer, you know. So yeah, that was awesome to see, and I mean it's gonna be important. I mean, obviously we've seen a little bit sprinkled in with Fable, like having that little bit in there. It makes you understand what you're getting yourself into. If you have this big CGI trailer, prime example, Roger. I forget what showcase it was when we first seen
Redfall.
the no,
Redfall.
no, yeah,
Redfall.
Redfall's good. That wasn't going to be it though.
It looks great. We
No,
see gameplay.
Alien Dark Descent, the game that just came out, right? That trailer came out, we're like, that shit looks fire.
Fire.
And then like after we see like gameplay and it's like a top down shooter, like twin stick shooter, and we're like, eh.
Yeah, like if they did Aliens Dark, yeah, like you just saw that Aliens game and only saw a cinematic trailer, like another first-person co-op Aliens game. This is gonna be awesome, like Back for Blood, and then you're like, wait, twin stick shooter,
Like,
what?
But apparently it's doing really well though. By the way, like the story I heard was really good. Even the gameplay mechanics were pretty solid. So it's on my radar to check that out. But next up here was in regards to 343, saying that they will continue to work on Halo, but other studios may get involved, according to Matt Booty, which we've been talking about this all along. It makes sense. Imagine if we get like it's
three
it
for three is
if we,
just garbage.
man, if we
They
get
are
it's software or making a Halo game
anyone,
or Machine Games, like they have a lot of talent to pull from. Like I'm ready for it. Like I'm at 343. You had your run. It's time to get these big boys in here because you ain't it. It's not going to help. But it's sticking along the line of Halo Infinite seasonal story, like CGI trailers or whatever for the story part of the multiplayer, which is really weird. Cutscenes will no longer happen because they're shifting resources. To what? We
really.
don't know, but it makes sense.
Honestly, we should have had single player things that involved the story. Like, what are these things? Oh, we got a cinematic trailer. What's it for? No, just to hype you up.
They were really just doing what Call of Duty does. You mean every time there's a new season, there's a new seasonal story trailer that ties into the Warzone map, and that's it. You don't get to play
Yeah,
through none of that
it's
at all.
stupid.
It's dumb as hell. Next up here was a new Halo tease, which was really just like a storm looking thing, and then like that high Halo icon popped up, and you're like, all right,
Battle
cool.
Royale, maybe.
Right. We were thinking battle royale. I like your hope is maybe like a new ODST game or something
Yeah,
like that. That would be dope because
because the
that was fun.
the icon looked like an ODST helmet, and I was like, oh my god, are we gonna get a new ODST game? Maybe.
Right. I mean, or because like playing as an ODS trooper in a battle royale would make sense, like with the drop pods, like how they drop them in, and just because
Hmm.
there's a fucking ton of ODS troopers as opposed to
You
the
could
regular
be an
Spartan.
ODST in it, and you're fighting like the enemies you're fighting against that are randomly out there are just elites or Covenant, and
Hmm.
then you're fighting each other because like I don't know, for some reason the ODST want to kill each other.
Maybe I
I
mean
don't know.
it could be like a military simulation, or I mean they can just come up with
Maybe,
whatever.
maybe it is a simulation.
Yeah, so that'd be pretty cool. Next up here it says why they have not invested into the VR market is because they said it's currently too small for them to invest in, which makes sense. We
Facts.
see how small the market is, and it's such a niche, very niche market. And I
And
think
Halo is such a quality game, or was a quality game,
mhm,
that we don't really want a shitty knockoff on VR that'll flavor all future VR releases.
yeah, no thank you. Wait until it's ready, and then put some good games there. Interesting though, this kind of broken. I was having this conversation with Inhuman was for the Starfield game that's coming out. There's no disc in the collector's edition, but if you just get the regular edition of the game, it comes with a disc. But what gets me even curious is like in the collector's edition, it comes with a steelbook, but there's no disc going to be in it. There's going to
It's
be
like
like a
the
code.
Yakuza. So the Yakuza series for 3, 4, and 5, if you bought the collectors, like the regular edition, like I did, that comes with all the games, they give you a steelbook, but the steelbook's empty. But the other packet that comes with it has 3, 4, and then 5 as separate discs inside of it, and you're like, why didn't you put one of the games in the Steelbook? It's
Yeah,
like because the way I would display it on my shelf now is in this nice little case you gave me.
right. It's really it blew my mind. I was like, so if you want to have the steel book and then also have the disc, you have to buy both editions of the game.
I
I'm
guess maybe the idea is to display the Steelbook on your shelf.
Yeah, I guess, but like I don't know how many people are actually going to be buying Starfield because it's
But
going to
then
be on Game Pass.
yeah, the follow-up too is like if you just get the collector's edition, the Steelbook will look cool on my shelf because I'm gonna play it on PC. Last time I've had a PC game that had a disc was high school.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes sense for PC, but like Xbox wise, it's like
Yeah, it's a little sussy.
it's a little weird, and like the code for the digital copy of the game is apparently engraved onto this as well. So like that's an interesting take on it as well. Who knows? I was just really confused. Um, Last up here though, in regards to updates, are an ID at Xbox Showcase was announced for July 2023, and it's being exclusively done through IGN, which I thought was pretty cool because we don't really see like showcases like this be done through gaming sources like
Hmm.
that. And IGN does really good covering games and running their actually their own events, which is awesome. But moving on here to some of their studios, Turn 10, Forza Motorsport developer Turn 10 Studios working in collaboration with Hutch to create a new mobile game that focuses on car customization. So it's like I guess like the what you already do in Forza Motorsport, but then like on the phone, except for
That's
the
just the
racing part.
game.
Yeah, like that's it. And then I mean, a lot of people go crazy for that. Like people love to customize and build the cars and do all that kind of stuff. As
Maybe
if
you can customize your car in the app and then move it over to a Forza game. I'm thinking big picture here. That'd be cool. But
that
like,
sounds
let's
like
be
what Call of
honest.
Duty did. Call of
Yeah.
Duty used to be able to create your loadouts and stuff like that on like a mobile app, and then like push it to the game. And then like when
Yep.
you got home, you're like your loadouts were already ready. Man, the good old days.
The good
Um,
old days when people thought about like how to into like add a mobile device to your game, not
yeah,
make a game for a mobile
right,
device.
to enhance the experience. Like it made sense, and like how
Fable
crucial it
did it.
is. Oh yeah, yeah, I do
Like
remember.
Fable, you had a whole fucking map on your phone. You're like, okay, this is what I'm looking for, and you literally were just rocking your fucking tablet or your phone, and it was a whole map to the game. That was cool.
Yeah,
We don't do that shit anymore, and
not at all.
it's silly to me.
Next up for Xbox games, Microsoft Flight Sim is getting a new city update. Two, it's for France and Local Legend 9. Leticier, I think if I'm saying that even kind of remotely right, I believe it's French. 631, and there's like a whole list of like new like towns and like updated localization in the French area. So that was pretty awesome to see. And then for Forza Horizon 5, definitely did not see this one coming here. With the new Barbie movie that was just announced, they're adding two new cars from the Barbie movie into this game, and I was just like, oh, cool. So Roger can go around driving in his Barbie mobile
You know, I'm
after he
gonna be
beats the game.
singing the soundtrack cranked to an 11.
It makes sense. It makes sense. And then as regards to Xbox services, Game Pass editions, which was actually surprising, but a little, not surprising, but whatever. Need for Speed Unbound. I was surprised to see this come to Game Pass already. I know it comes via EA Play, but that's available now. The Bookwalker, which is a recently announced game, is coming to game or it's on Game Pass now, which seems pretty cool because like you go around like in this library and you like pick up a book and like you go into the book and you like play through that story in the book. So I'm probably gonna check that one out. Bramble the Mountain King comes out on the 27th. Fist the Forge and the Shadow Torch. Also on the 27th, Story of Seasons, Friends of Mineral Town. This is a game that we were just talking about earlier for game releases coming to Game Pass on June 29th. Arcade,
No, 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 no.
or is this a different
Story of
one?
Seasons. Friends of Mineral Town is an older game.
Okay,
A
so
Wonderful Life is a
so
newer one. Is the new one.
maybe it's going to set up the newer one coming to Game Pass later.
Maybe. Or to build hype.
Yeah, and then you got Arcade Paradise coming on July 3rd, and then Sword and Fairy Together Forever coming on July 5th. Then on June 30th, though, we are losing some games. DJ Max Respect V, Empire of Sin, Matchpoint Tennis Championships, uh, Olija, and then also Amari, and then Road 96, which I was sad to see leaving because that was such a enjoyable game. I thought it had its ups and downs, but it was definitely a fun game, and I actually got to play through Day Zero, the new game, the new sequel or prequel, I guess technically. But if you haven't played it, make sure you check it out before June 30th. But
Yeah.
Roger, Nintendo. Didn't
Nintendo
didn't
had
didn't didn't know that the direct was even going to be a thing. They were like,
they shadow dropped the Nintendo Direct. They're like, "Oh yeah, guys, just make sure you check us out tomorrow. We're having a Direct," and everyone's like, "Wait, what?"
"What?
So
Okay."
we got a huge Direct. So let's start
Understatement of
off.
the year.
Let's just start off with the 30 titles. We'll go through them real quick in rapid succession. We'll talk about what's coming to them, and then we'll talk about some of the cool things. Like we can dive into what some things we think are awesome. Super Mario Brothers Wonder. That is the capstone of the show. We saw that Super Mario Brothers is actually getting a new iteration in the series. This will be Wonder. It will come with new transformations and new mechanics. We will also be seeing Super Mario Brothers RPG getting a full remake, like a graphical remake. And that looks, well, it's not a remake, it's a remaster more or less,
Right.
because the story and everything's the same, but they are revamping the entirety of the game's aesthetic. It looks awesome. Then we got Detective Pikachu #2. We're getting a game for Detective Pikachu, which looks pretty cool. We saw Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 1 is going to be coming to the Switch. We also saw The Legend of Zelda Tears
Which,
of the Kingdom.
oh yeah, never mind. We'll circle back to Metal
We'll
Gear.
come
Go
back
ahead.
in a minute. We got Tears of the Kingdom now getting two new amiibos. Zelda and Ganondorf will be getting amiibos later this year. WarioWare is getting a new game. It is called WarioWare Move It. You will be using your Joy-Cons to move around, dance, do different actions, and it'll be up to 4-player party game. Awesome. Pikmin 4, we got a new showcase for that, showing the new game modes. Now Pikmin will be able to be played day and night, and there will be mechanics based on the nighttime cycle now. You will not need to hide in your ship before the night comes. HD versions of Pikmin 1 and 2 are now available on the Switch store, as well as Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are getting new DLC, Hidden Treasure and Area Zero. We got new looks into those expansions. You'll be going into a Pokemon what were they used to be? The Pokemon ranches, not ranch,
Safari
the
Zone.
Safari
Yeah.
zones. Safari zones are we're essentially getting a giant Pokemon Safari zone in one of them, and the other will be about hidden treasures. And we got a look at sort of like the traditional Japanese culture, the festival scene, and we'll see new Pokemon associated with night festivals. We also saw Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is getting new courses alongside new characters. PD Piranha and Wriggler and Comic are adding into Wave 5 as well as new maps. We also saw that Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon is being remastered. We've got an Untitled Princess Peach game coming, and Vampire Survivors is getting a Switch release, as well as couch co-op being added to Vampire Survivors, which is awesome. We also saw Dragon Quest Monsters, The Dark Prince, which is a Pokemon style game in the Dragon Quest universe, which looks really cool to me. Sonic Superstars is now getting a new trailer, so this is the Sonic collection of the classic Sonic games is getting re-released for another time, but with new graphics. We also saw that Batman, the Arkham trilogy, is coming to the Switch. We've got Star Ocean, the second story R. We've got Persona 5 Tactica, a new game. It's going to be a Persona game with a sort of tactics style gameplay overlay, whether that be like Final Fantasy Tactics or like Triangle Strategy or many of these other style games that we see on the Switch. We'll also be getting Myth Force, new Saturday morning cartoon roguelike that will come in 2023. We've got Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, the second DLC, The Last Spark Hunter. Splatoon 3, we got the new Splatfest being announced, and it's about ice cream flavors. Vanilla, strawberry, and mint chocolate chip, I believe, are those three flavors. Just Dance 2024 is coming to the Switch, and Palia is a cozy free-to-play free-to-play adventure simulation game that lets you create a life of your dreams. We also saw Penny's Big Breakaway, a new bright and colorful 3D platformer. We've got Fae Farm, another view into this farm simulation, fairy farm simulation RPG with magic. Silent Hope sees 7 wordless warriors working together to find a reclusive king. And then we've got Headbangers Rhythm Royale, a new rhythm-based battle royale. We've got Gloomhaven brings the beloved board game and same name to Switch. So Gloomhaven is coming to the Switch as a standalone game now that you can play by yourself instead of with a bunch of friends. We've got Manic Mechanics, a four-player co-op action game about repairing vehicles as fast as you can. It's like Uncooked, but with vehicles. And next up, and then lastly, we've got Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged coming to the Switch. Okay, that was 30 games that we found out coming to the Switch. Pick three.
Pick three. That's a tough one. I guess some new information that we get from Metal Gear Solid was they're also including like some of the Metal Gear games from like the DS, I think it was, or the Game Boy, which is pretty cool. So like you're getting like the three main games, but then you're also getting like two of the smaller games that are like way lesser known about, on top of all the other additional content you're getting. So that was pretty cool. I've never really played a Pikmin game, but since I recently played Tinykin, that's basically the same exact game.
Yeah.
It was a clone of it.
Tinykin is an homage to Pikmin.
Yeah, and I was like, man, I really enjoyed Tinykin. So like, fuck, I
It
missed
was a
out
fucking
on.
good game.
Yeah, I really missed out on Pikmin, and I was like, man, that looks great. And then they were like, HD versions of 1 and 2 are now available. I'm like, well, fuck, like I'm gonna have my fair share there. And then I would say my third one here on the list that kind of excited me a little bit was, oh man, maybe seeing the Batman Arkham trilogy come to the Switch, because as everyone knows, I'm currently playing through that trilogy. I beat the first two, and all I got is the Arkham City left to play. But hey, now it's on the Switch, and people who didn't
You're
get to play
definitely not going to play it on the Switch.
I'm not, but that's awesome to see that those people that don't have like an Xbox or a PlayStation can play this now on the Switch.
These classic games.
Yeah.
All right, so let me go real quick here. So Super Mario RPG Remake. I did not sleep on this, man.
No,
I saw
it looks
that and
good.
I was like, the second that trailer started, I was like,
so it looked good.
because I've never played this. And this is a game that plays in a genre that I love. I am so passionate about this genre. This is what Paper Mario literally comes from. Like, Paper Mario is like the modernization of a classic game called Super Mario RPG. This is where Paper Mario got its start, and it is a cult classic. It is that way for a reason. I'm excited. Pikmin 4. That is probably going to be one of my second choices here. My fourth and my third is kind of tied with two games, but Pikmin 4 looks really good. I'm excited to play it. I wanted to play Pikmin 3, but I let Jordan play it. She didn't want to beat it, but I really maybe might go back, play Pikmin 1, Pikmin 2, then play 3, and beat 4 when it comes out. Because honestly, I felt the same way. Tinykin, that game was fire.
Yeah.
And it made me want to go back.
Hell yeah.
So lastly, I'm gonna split my pick if you're okay with that, and that has to be Dragon Quest Monsters and Persona 5 Tactica. So the reason I wanted to split my vote on this is because we're not looking at, the main franchise games here. Like, Super Mario RPG wasn't a main franchise game. It was definitely a side story in the franchise of Super Mario. But like, for me, Persona isn't a tactic game. But like, to see that, I was like, I love tactic games. I love Persona 5. This looks great.
Right.
And then I was like, Dragon Quest. I love Dragon Quest. I can't wait for the new Dragon Quest game. When's Dragon Quest 12 coming out? We don't hear anything, but we do get a new Dragon Quest game. And it's a Pokemon style game?
Yeah.
I'll give it a go.
It was
That looks
definitely a
fun.
surprise. I was like, oh shit. I was like, this has me intrigued. Like, I might have to give this a go. But in regards to Persona 5 Tactica, that was the game that was announced at the Xbox showcase. That's why I was really surprised to see it at the Switch
But
one.
for it to show up there is where fuck the Xbox, fuck the PlayStation. That's not where I play these strategy games. I got Disgaea for the PlayStation, and I was like, this is shit. I want to play it on a mobile device. I want to play it on a 3DS. I want to play it on a Game Boy, a game that feels like that sort of. That's what I don't play on my big TV to play strategy games. I play them on my computer, and I play them handheld. And I was like, to see Tactica coming to the Switch, I was like, that's where I'll play that fucking game. But I am surprised that Atlas is going to put their Persona series on the Nintendo platform.
Yeah, definitely awesome to see. So yeah, definitely what an action-packed showcase. I mean, we were talking about it earlier, like we put it on par with the Xbox showcase this year, because they were both A plus
Fire.
solid fire showcases, and then PlayStation Summer Games Fest were just like meh, you know.
All right. So Vic, we've got a few topics left. It's already 8:30. Let's rapid fire some topics here.
Yeah, so Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge is getting a dimension hopping multiverse DLC starring Samurai Rabbit. No price tag or release has been announced. So there's that.
And then GTA Online is going to be removing 180 cars that are kind of unused cars, things people didn't buy or wanted to play with. So, like, they weren't spending shark cash on it. So they removed the assets, I guess, but they didn't remove the assets. That's the thing. There, you can't buy them anymore. But if you have their subscription model, the GTA Online subscription model that I didn't know existed till this article came out, if you pay for that subscription, all these cars are available in the car
I'm
club for
reporting a
free.
stream. If it's not my bad, just copy and paste it from the article I did get it from. So there's that. But yeah, it was interesting to see GTA remove cars. Like I don't see what was the purpose behind it. Even if people don't buy it, like it's part of the game.
Yeah, it was there. Why remove it? Oh,
Right.
because we put it in our subscription model. Did you really like that cool car? Well, you can't buy it anymore. You have to use our subscription to drive it.
Next
30.
up, was surprising news that came out of Respawn Entertainment. Apparently, they were working on Titanfall 3 for 10 months before they pivoted and started working on Apex Legends, and that came out from an ex-developer that is obviously no longer there. But interesting to see because I mean, thank goodness Apex Legends hit, and that was a very successful game. But like, man, where is Titanfall 3? That's what we need.
Yeah, it was pretty sad to see. Next up, McDonald's has released a new video game called Grimace. Retro. It's a retro game featuring Grimace. I forget what the title is called, but I think it's like Grimace's Revenge or something. And it's about Grimace, the purple milkshake blob, stealing, going to steal stuff. And it's a retro style Game Boy Color game that requires you to play it on a Game Boy Color emulator, which they built into their website. But you can actually get the game, download the files, and put it onto a actual cartridge to put it onto a Game Boy Color emulator and play it.
Yeah,
It will play on a Game Boy Color emulator. So you could literally print a cartridge for it,
yeah.
put it into a Game Boy Color, and it will play.
I'm just surprised that they invested that much into his birthday or whatever. You put that. You dropped the article. I was like, "Huh? Why?"
Yeah, right.
But,
I was like,
but
oh,
here we
fuck.
are.
It's like the fact that it plays on the Game Boy Color, it just goes to show like that's just cool to me. Like,
Yeah.
like I would almost play it just because I'm like that's just so fucking silly.
All right. That's a collector's item at this point. Next up here on our list is Kilo Games. This is sad times here, guys, because the studio behind Frisbee Forever 2 and Subway Surfer is laying off their employees before closing the entire studio in July, and I'm like, damn. RIP to a great, because that's actually still one mobile game that's on my phone, like at all times, is Subway Surfer. I play that game at random ass times when I just need to kill some time, and I'm just gonna miss it. But surprise announcement here for you, Roger. What we got here?
Lies of P and Wolong Fallen Dynasty are actually working on a collaboration, and which was announced to come later this year when Lies of P is about to come out.
Yeah, so that was interesting. Then we had some delays for a couple of games here. So Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn has been delayed until 2024, and then Immortals of Avium was delayed until August 22nd, 2023. So that just got pushed out a
Hey,
month. That's fine.
take your time. If you need your time, take it, but like it better be good.
Warzone
This is
Mobile
the
is ready
game
to
that's
install
being
now.
hyped up.
Yeah.
So, moving on, Harry Potter is getting a new game. As we saw, the IP is strong. People want to be a wizard. So, Magic Awakened, a new Android and iOS game, which will be a free-to-play collectible card game. It combines collectible card game mechanics with MMO-style features, and it releases in 2 days.
Yeah. I was surprised so quick turnaround. Like, hey guys, we're dropping a new game next week. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Next up, though, Ubisoft was in the news because this one was interesting because you dropped it. And I was like, like that's just typical Ubisoft making a mistake here. Star Wars Outlaws and Avatar's Frontiers of Pandora will be exclusive to the Ubisoft Store at launch, and you're just like
On PC.
on
On
PC.
PC, you can only buy these two games especially that Star Wars Outlaw game that looks good. They're like, but you can only buy it from the Ubisoft launcher because we're cool.
Yeah, and that launcher is
Fuck
so
you.
garbage.
Fuck you. That launcher sucks. I refuse to buy this Star Wars game because of that launcher. But Vic, what's going on with Call of Duty?
Oh, man, like it's like never-ending bad news here. Call of Duty Activision announced that Call of Duty Warzone Caldera, which is Warzone 1, will be shutting down later this year, and only the current Warzone will be available after. And it's really sad to see that they're just shuttering the servers for the first Warzone because Warzone 2 sucks, and people have been going back to play the first Warzone because they know that that game is enjoyable. And like thinking about it now, like you can go back and play any Call of Duty multiplayer game at any time, whether they're hacked or whatever that stuff the case may be. But those servers are still up. COD 4 from 2007 servers are still up. 16 years ago, but you're shuttering the servers here for a game that was super successful. It's just mind blowing here. Don't get it.
The problem is they don't want you sitting on these old games. They want you to buy and buy and buy into
No.
the new Warzone.
That
And
nobody
they
wants to
know
play.
you will because you're a slave. You're a slave to Warzone. And the thing is, what are you gonna go to? Apex Legends or Fortnite?
Or PUBG.
Is PUBG even really that big still?
Apparently it
Like,
is. It has a pro circuit, so it got to be some kind of big if it has one. But
yeah,
what's
now
last
let's
up
talk
here?
about
Call of Duty
let's
competitor.
talk yeah, so honestly, the weirdest thing to me is like it's not really a Call of Duty competitor, but like a Battlefield competitor. I was watching anime last Thursday with my boys, and they were like, "We're about to go buy this the new game called BattleBit," and I was like, "I saw that on Steam this morning. Are you guys memeing on me?" And they're like, "No, we actually are gonna go buy it." And I was like, "What?" A $15 game, no strings attached, no microtransactions, just a fresh first person shooter game with 256 versus 256 combat. Okay. It is a huge, bigger than Battlefield style game. No microtransactions, $15. Go.
And it looked interesting, honestly.
Yeah. I was like, nah, guys,
It
this
was
looks
all
like
over
some of the old.
Twitter. It was all over
Yeah.
Twitter the other day, and I was like, why? Like, are we really like that pissed off at Call of Duty? We're just finding games like
But
this, I
like
guess.
this like came out of nowhere, but BattleBit supposedly, it's really crazy to me. And they were like, here's a $15 early access game. And everyone's like, this is fun. This is like a lot of silly fun. And it looks good too. Like, I was surprised at how good this game looks. And like, it just doesn't take much to please gamers if the game is super playable and feels fun to play.
Exactly. So that's all of our
And
gaming.
and
Oh,
it's
okay.
$15.
Right, exact. $15 and no microtransactions. So you don't got to worry about spending more for microtransactions than you did for the original game. But enough of our gaming news. Let's move on here to our leaks and rumors so we can end out the show. So I'm going to kick it off here with a interesting leak in regards to Xbox. Apparently, there was a Quake 2 remastered recently rated in Korea, which a lot of people have been speculating that this is what Machine Games is working on next. Like obviously outside of their Indiana Jones game, but Quake 2 remastered would that be a game you would check out? Because I mean, Quake was a game that
Yeah,
was around long before us that we were playing
played
games.
Quake 2. I played Quake 2. It was fun.
Yeah,
Like Quake was a really cool series. They have a whole convention based off of
QuakeCon.
Quake
Yeah,
called QuakeCon. And this game was just randomly seen in the wild before QuakeCon this year. We might be getting an announcement for it. What are we gonna do? Maybe we get a revitalization for the whole Quake series.
yeah. I mean, it worked out for Doom. Why
Yeah,
not bring Quake back?
Doom's fire as fuck.
All right,
Well, I mean, the first Doom was. The second one was.
Doom Eternal. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hear you. And then another leak that came out. It was in regards to Lego. Obviously, we've seen the most recent Lego 2K Drive, but apparently we're getting a Lego football game, and this one was also rated or leaked from the rating board in Korea. I don't know what the fuck Korea's doing lately. They're just like leak, leak, leak. Oops.
Or it may not be that they're leaking it, they're just publishing it in open records because they might have to based on their laws, and people are just like,
There it is.
it's like the sunshine and this it's like the sunshine laws in Florida. Like that's why we get Florida man stories. It's just not because Florida's fucked up beyond belief. It's because Florida's fucked up beyond belief and they have laws to publish all these court records.
Right. So yeah, that'll be interesting though. A Lego football video game. We'll see how that plays out. But what's going on with Square Enix? Because we love talking about them so much.
So they accidentally leaked a new Star Ocean game potentially. A remake of the Star Ocean second story is getting remade possibly.
Interesting.
And then PlayStation, on the other hand, it seems that we see a new leak about a new console bundle coming. You can get the PS5 now with 24 months of PS Plus Premium, with this new bundle.
Which that'd be pretty awesome. Like that's an easy way to get you into that. That's 2 years, and
That's like $200 right there.
yeah, like that's a great content bundle. And last up here, because we love talking about Metal Gear today, is Master Collection Volume 2. The games for this collection apparently has leaked. You're supposed to be getting Metal Gear Solid 4 and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker and Metal Gear Solid 5. The interesting part here is apparently Metal Gear Solid 4 was only released on like one platform or something like that. So now like you're going to be able to play this on like everything, and this comes out a wider audience. So that was pretty awesome to see. And obviously, Metal Gear Solid 5 was a very interesting game. I think you played it, and it had its highs and its lows. It's an interesting take. I think that was the first Metal Gear game created without Kojima, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes,
as well. So it was definitely a different path
a
for
whole different game.
yeah. But yeah, that was awesome to see there. But that's it, man. So we can go ahead and move on and close out this week's episode. We want to thank everyone who did come through and check us out live. We enjoyed the communication going back and forth here, and we also want to thank everyone who does check us out later on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. But Roger, where can the community find you at?
Hey, I'm at the same place I always am. You can check me out at twitch.tv/lunatic_oblivion.
And of course, everyone, you can come and check me out on Twitter at Mr. Never Chillin _. Xbox is X Never Space Chillin. Facebook is Vic Brubacher, and I stream over on my Twitch at twitch.tv/Mr. Never Chillin, where I'm currently playing Hogwarts Legacy and Redfall with my man Inhuman Line here in chat. But we want to thank everyone again. But until next time, peace.
Press start podcast.